All right, so this is just an update on the Kansas City Royals' current stadium situation. A lot of people kind of in the dark about what's going on with the Royals, with Kauffman Stadium, the big renovation in 2003. Are they looking to leave? And is the downtown proposal really going to happen? You can take a look. Kansas City down to 2 sites in search for a new stadium, possibly in North Kansas City, and then also a location downtown. Now, what the Royals are looking to do is turn a potential downtown ballpark into a Wrigleyville type area. The Royals right now are just horrible. I mean, it is remarkable how bad that team is. They somehow have a worse record than the Athletics. But we're going to get into this article. It says, to date, plans and communications have been positive and resulted in ongoing dialogue that could create a neighborhood-centric ballpark similar to Wrigley Field and the surrounding Wrigleyville in Chicago, according to a recent letter. Our objective is to create a place where fans and visitors to the Northland can enjoy best-in-class sports experience and live, work, play in a good neighborhood ballpark environment. So the 2 options are believed to be East Village and North Kansas City, and that has drawn some criticism. You can see this article from the Kansas City Star. If the new Kansas City Royals Stadium isn't downtown, what's the point of moving? Lamenting the idea, if you're gonna move, you need to go downtown. The Royals have also seen the St. Louis Cardinals' impressive attendance, the fact that they have built up an entire baseball village right off of Busch Stadium. I mean, what the Cardinals have done is really impressive, and they've got great crowds. The Royals currently dealing with some attendance issues. It's not gonna get any better. August and September are going to be brutal at Kauffman Stadium. Maybe part of that can be blamed on the location. Kansas City, though, with the Chiefs, they always get good attendance, but I do think it is apples to oranges. Let's be real. The Chiefs have won a few Super Bowls. They've got Mahomes, and they only have like 8 home games, so it's a lot more scarce. But it could be a problem for Kansas City to where if they decide to move downtown, they might be able to get at least a few more thousand people to the game. The location of Kauffman Stadium is the biggest reason they would be moving. I don't think Kauffman Stadium necessarily is a bad ballpark. It is pretty old based on stadium standards going up in the 70s, but it has received a recent big-time renovation that, well, I guess it happened 20 years ago, but still, it's not a stadium you look at and you think, oh, it's ridiculously old. I guess you can say the upper deck is a bit ridiculous, but that's just its own kind of unique design, I would say, the upper deck area. It doesn't look that bad to me. And then, the waterfalls and things like that, it is really nice. Again, there seems to be not a lot of information about this Kansas City Royals project, so when I did my review about 3 weeks ago, I found out that they had 3 different proposals, and the most recent proposal is the one I'm going to show, called the Royal Palace, that has a really nice brick exterior. The interior, to me, looks very underwhelming. That's how I would put the interior. Now, these are just rough renderings, but just looking at it, extremely small. It does have a nice, batter's eye. It's got that big scoreboard going around the entire outfield, which I think is a bit ridiculous. You really don't need that big of a scoreboard. Kind of makes it look wonky, but you also, looks like, have the upper deck going around the entire right field outfield, which is something we normally don't see, and there are just more images of it. So this is the most recent proposal. What is my confidence level of this rendering happening? Not very high. I think if they do get a downtown ballpark, they're going to change the rendering. That's just my personal opinion. This was the other rendering before the last one. This one has kind of the half pyramid seating in center field, and then you can see it. There is heavy emphasis on the idea of it being a district, with it being located right next to an overhanging pool, along with some, seating. It also does have a bunch of trees up there. It looks like apartment buildings overhanging where you can see the game. All of these stadiums very similar in the sense, very, very small upper decks. They've all got capacities sitting right around 35K, and that's pretty much standard, especially with a ballpark in Kansas City, on what it would be like. And then I'm guessing this is the one most people saw. So this was the original first rendering, and this was my favorite one by far. It does have the fountains located in right center field. I do think if Kansas City gets a new ballpark, there's going to be less emphasis on the fountains. You know, Kauffman Stadium, they're all over the place, you know, taking up a lot of the outfield seating and things like that. I like that, but I have heard that the fountains do get annoying in terms of their sound, and it really does take away from some of the outfield seating. So they're definitely going to bring the fountains to the new stadium if they get it, but I do think there's going to be less of an emphasis on it. This is probably my favorite design they have, and it does have kind of a community aspect of it. Not as much as the second rendering with kind of the overlooking pool, but you can see the idea of moving the stadium downtown, developing the area around the ballpark. One of the options is to go downtown. People saying, you know, why would you even build a new stadium if you're not going to go downtown? That's the whole point. You're going to get a better attendance. You're going to get more walk-up crowds, especially during summer night games. It does seem pretty obvious, and I do think the Royals are in a spot right now. They're going to have terrible attendance this year. It's just inevitable. The team is just horrible, and they are not going to have a good August or September in terms of attendance. And then we also have this article from 3 days ago, the title, Kansas City Royals accused of stalling deal that would secure worker benefits for new stadium. So there's a lot going on right now when it comes to the Kansas City Royals stadium. Looks like the earliest it can be opened at this point, considering they don't even have a location picked out, is 2027, the likely spot being somewhere downtown. I still think that would be the number one option, but the idea of them needing a new stadium, you can understand it. I mean, Kauffman Stadium is really old, but it's not like it's, I mean, I would rank it probably like 18th or actually probably like 16th out of 30 ballparks. So it's like a middle of the pack stadium. There's nothing really horrible about it. Located in the complex there with also Arrowhead Stadium. And then if it goes, you could imagine they would either expand the parking for Arrowhead Stadium, or, I mean, you really don't need all that parking at that point. It might be completely redeveloped into like an area, maybe a building right next to Arrowhead if they really wanted to go all in on football with that location, which I'm guessing they would. Reading from an article, it says, by listing potential ballpark sites that include North Kansas City on the list, that sent a signal that a downtown Kansas City ballpark was not a done deal. The biggest battle, though, may be convincing fans that leaving Kauffman Stadium is in the best interest of all of the team. Yeah, so I don't think that would really be a big problem. I mean, fans just have to realize the bigger issue would be the funding of it. I think a lot of fans are kind of fed up with the idea of everything being split 50-50 or more publicly funded. They're seeing these other projects get 100% privately funded because billionaires are pooling their money together to privately fund a lot of these things. It's a lot less, or it's a lot more painless when it comes to stadiums and getting the money for that. So this is something we'll have to see, you know, which spot they choose. I do think they are going to choose the downtown spot, and I hope they go back to the first rendering personally. The most recent one, I like the exterior of it. I can almost guarantee it's not going to be called Royal Palace though. And that's just because they're going to get some type of other sponsorship, I'm guessing. That'd be a sweet name for a stadium, no doubt about that. I hope it's called Royal Palace, but we will see whatever comes of this project. It's a project that, I mean, it's a few years old. They've had renderings now for 3 different stadiums, so it does seem like Kansas City is pretty serious about moving downtown to try and get better attendance and an upgraded stadium with a brand new district similar to what Busch has with St. Louis and the Cardinals. And also they did reference Wrigleyville. I don't know if they would try and do a copycat and do like rooftop areas, seating and things like that. I think the rooftop look is really cool. They would get some criticism for sure for being a copycat, but I mean, you know, at a certain point, it's just a cool design. So I don't know, maybe they'll decide to go with the whole aspect of the overhanging apartments. I mean, really no one has done that where apartments are so close at least by that scale to where you can look over and watch the game. We've seen it at stadiums where you can kind of get a view of it, but it does seem like the Royals are really trying to have that community vibe of a ballpark downtown and then the expanding area built up really well to where the ballpark just fits in like a glove in a downtown district area. So guys, that is the update on the Royals Stadium. This is a project they really want to do. I would imagine the earliest we could see this thing opening would be 2027. That's if they're able to get everything ready, the renderings ready, released, and the groundbreaking happens in 2024. The construction happens through 2026, and then they open in 2027. Is that realistic? I don't know. It's kind of impossible to predict what happens with these ballparks based on funding issues, but we'll have to see. Guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.